Hi guys, welcome to Robin Hood Diaries yet again. So glad you could be here, share my stories with me. I previewed tonight, I believe it's somewhere in the neighborhood of the legends that I've gone to see, basically here locally, obviously, well for the most part, except for Manhattan. But anyway, all the kind of legends that I've seen, you know, vocalists primarily, as I previewed EARTHA KITT. Well, yes, I'll get to that. So, a little bit of context here. I grew up in a household where my stepfather would only listen to jazz. That was it. As far as he was concerned, the only thing that came close to jazz is the Beatles. Everything else was crap. So I was literally, I don't want to say dragged, because that's really not fair to a lot of what I fell in love with, but I was basically dragged around Los Angeles frequently, routinely, and constantly to see not just jazz, but jazz, blues, slash, not too much else. But of course, vocalists also, which was my big thing. Running joke amongst my innerest circle, was not much, is that within the first 5 words, I can identify easily the African-American female vocalists anywhere from 1940 to 1960, let's say 39 to, I don't know, 59, but yeah, I can nail it. So a lot of that came from this early exposure to jazz vocalists, blues, and all of that in between. My stepfather was like a walking encyclopedia of jazz, but he kind of, you know, preferred kind of jazz that I don't like, very instrumental, almost kind of like hybrid-y jazz. So we were dragged to, and I'll just say drag for everything, I'm going to pop around here, the Playboy Jazz Festival at the Hollywood Bowl, which was an institution. I don't know if it's still going on. Like I said, I don't Google these shows, but this was a thing in Los Angeles / Hollywood during the 70s, for sure, 80s, for sure. And it was, like I said, an institution. We always had a box. You always bring a picnic thing with like ready-made things and wine and cheese and whatever. So that's how I saw Playboy Jazz Festival every year, on and on. I saw great. I fell in love with Angie Bofield. I don't know if anyone knows who that is, but anyway. So again, going around and around, I also saw Sarah Vaughan. Sarah Vaughan at the Beverly, it doesn't matter, Wilshire something hotel, concert hall, an old one. And we had really good seats, and I was able to see and watch Sarah Vaughan do a whole concert. And yes, she does perspirate profusely, but unbelievable. A lot of her stuff that's recorded actually is live. The little slip-ups that she makes or interludes is amazing. And she was nicknamed Sassy, or The Voice, and I've always been a huge fan of hers. So now, kind of wiggling back a little bit to what is called the Huntington Hartford Hotel. Why do I keep saying hotel? Huntington Hartford Theater. That's in the heart of Hollywood and Vine. Everything played there. Now it's the Ricardo Montalban Theater, and there's a whole bunch of weird eclectic stuff that has been there. But back in my day, in the 70s particularly, the Huntington Hartford was where everything hit. If it wasn't the Amundsen, which was Roadshow Broadway, first hit to LA, Huntington would be considered a very popular off-Broadway show. And I saw Carol Burnett there. I saw all kinds of folks there. One of the folks that I saw there was Lily Tomlin, both of her one-woman shows, to include her first one-woman show, which was at Huntington Hartford, I don't know, 78, whenever. And of course, because my mother knew this lady, Harriet, that worked at the Huntington Hartford for, you know, again, Liz, 1,000 years, Periclean age, I was able to have massive, easy access to that theater, and I was taken backstage to visit, right off the wings or in the wings, and my mother insisted I do the imitation that I did of her, just like Mae West and everything else they wanted. And so I did that. She was very gracious, and it was a lot longer than I had expected, about 5 minutes or so. So that was, of course, amazing. There was, speaking of one-woman shows, just really briefly, when Whoopi Goldberg was, and I don't want to say a nothing, but Whoopi hit Broadway like a juggernaut. I mean, literally. I was there in Manhattan in '83, was it? When she hit her one-woman show. And it was, I'm not necessarily a Whoopi fan, but like unreal. I actually stood up and she got an ovation from me like twice or whatever. And I've never seen a theater explode. And she just was there standing with the spotlight on her the whole time. She did like a dozen characters, a half a dozen characters. Unbelievable.